Hello, everybody. Welcome to this last session of our Social Siesta webinar. This is has been a very interesting series which started in early January, where we talked about what is the value of social entrepreneurs for societies, and then we talked about how to create effective communication strategies for social entrepreneurs. And now we want to talk about the Social Economy Action Plan of the European Commission. And to all of you who joined, please introduce yourself in the chat, write a little bit about yourself. Maybe also you can put your link there to your website or your LinkedIn profile. You're more than happy to connect and network. Yeah, and with this, I would like to invite my colleague Anja from our lead partner Isavot to tell us a little bit more about the project that we all work on.
Hi, hello, welcome to the third Social Siesta webinar. For those that joined us for the first time today, maybe just a few, a few words about our project. So this event is organized in the framework of a project called CE Responsible. This is the Interreg Central Europe project, and it lasts for 3 years. We will end the project in March this year. We are 11 organizations coming from different Central European countries that support social economy, especially collaboration between social companies, NGOs, and mainstream businesses. So all the activities in the project are focused on these 3 target groups so that they would understand each other better, and that way they could collaborate better. So this event is one of the project events that we organized on transnational and local level. We also currently support development of 90 innovative social projects, which would be developed in collaboration between, like I said, between NGOs and social companies and mainstream businesses. So we would really like to encourage, or let's say launch that kind of collaboration in our Central Europe regions between these different types of organizations, companies. In order to join, let's say, these companies from different sectors, from different principles, we also set up a Central European altruistic association. So in this association, we would like to invite all the entrepreneurs that find that kind of collaboration between social companies and mainstream businesses relevant and important to join us in this association. Yes, I think that that is enough for the introduction, and I hope that we will have interesting debate today about how to support social economy and social entrepreneurship in the future. So, thank you.
Yes, thanks so much, Anja. And yeah, so our website net4socialimpact.eu is supporting the social entrepreneurs. You can check out the resources. We're going to add more stuff there, but also we have a whole part of our project was related to policies, policies which can facilitate the development of social entrepreneurs, which can make it easier for support organizations to support social entrepreneurs, and of course also for these associations of social entrepreneurs to be able to convince that the ecosystem of social entrepreneurship is really important for the economy as a whole. And what is quite interesting is that, and this will be topic today, is that on the European level, there's an immense movement now to recognize the value of social entrepreneurship, social innovation. And there are many policy initiatives, both on the local level, on the regional, national level, and on the European level. And this is what we're going to talk about. So we would really like you to be part of this, and also to share your experiences. As I said, after we have our 3 speakers, you are more than happy to also join in and intervene. And our 3 speakers today have a lot of experience in policy making. Our first speaker will be Guy Lejeune. He's working for DG Employ. DG Employ is in charge of social affairs, inclusion, labor market, and the Director General is driving this big push, which the European Commission has many times has said towards creating a better ecosystem for social entrepreneurs across Europe. And then we have Marino Cavallo from the Metropolitan city of Bologna, one of our project partners. Marino has been working on many European projects, has been working on innovative forms of financing, innovative forms of generating jobs and growth. And he has under his had he developed the policy framework inside our project as well. And then we have Francesco Silvestri from the University of Bologna, who's also our project partner in this project. He is responsible, the University of Bologna and the department of Francesco has been very instrumental in analyzing the framework for social entrepreneurs, doing a policy analysis, and supporting the development of the roadmap. So with that, I want to give the floor to Guy to give us a little bit of background about what is actually the social economy action plan of the European Commission, the European Union, and then afterwards, Marino and Francesco will maybe add their perspectives from their institutions. So maybe you can join or share the screen, Guy.
Yeah. First of all, I will put my timer, because when I start talking about the action plan, I get carried away, and I better stick to the timing, I think. Okay, let's go. So, share screen. Do you see my screen?
Nein. Ja, jetzt.
Yes. Okay. Thanks. So. I should like things. So I'll hide you a bit. So in fact, I have 18 slides, and of course, I will not tell much about every one of them, but simply the first slide is to show where it comes from. So indeed, 10 years ago, we had a social business initiative. And we knew that this anniversary would not go unnoticed. And so we ordered already, before this 10 years passed, a study on the impact of the SBI. And this is one of the important things in this evidence gathering. In fact, you will see in the action plan that we quite often refer to this social business study. There's a real sort of impact study on effectiveness, efficiency, consistency, and so on. But it also gave already a sort of menu of where the gaps were and where policy could really help. The second big part of this evidence gathering was a series of studies that we did on the different member states, but also a number of non-member states, the so-called mapping of the social enterprise ecosystem. And the third evidence gathering is, in fact, that we started this whole action plan by publishing 11 months ago a roadmap for the action plan to which everybody could react. And we got 120 or 130 reactions. And we, of course, looked closely at them. And for that, I will now jump to the next slide, because the thing that we published was not simply a communication, but it had 3 parts. So there's the communication itself, so that's the action plan itself, which explains what are the issues and what the different partners, so the Commission or the member states or the regions or the stakeholders can do, or is in fact not the right word, because it's often in cooperation. But the second thing is a staff working document. So that's really like, I would say, almost a book of 50 pages in which these answers on this consultation were summarized. And then the third one, I will come back on that if I have time. It's in fact a related issue whereby there's a whole issue of industrial ecosystems. So the Commission has distributed the economy over 14 ecosystems, and proximity and social economy is one of them. And so a whole process is being set up for the stakeholders and the other partners at the different levels of government to work together on a plan on how to support the green transition, the digital transition, and increase the resilience of this ecosystem. I will skip this slide. This is simply showing what's the value of the social economy in quantitative terms. And this is also not so relevant for you, I think, to define the social economy. You know that better than me. This is very important. This is, in fact, the structure of the action plan. So we start with the framework conditions. These are the things which are not necessarily specific for the social economy, but which are more or less the frame in which the social economy organizations have to work. So I have all kinds of legal and policy frameworks, for example, on state support, on procurement, on what the different levels of government can do. The second one is about giving these frameworks, how can the businesses be supported on the ground? And of course, there's business support, there's capacity building, there's access to finance, there are again these transitions, and there's also social innovation as a topic. And the third one is also very important, although it looks a lot smaller. That is the whole mapping of social economy. So we had this mapping by member states, but that was only social enterprises, not the whole social economy. And for the whole social economy, because of its transversal character, the data harvest is pretty poor. And there is also the issue, of course, of communication. Again, because of the transversal character, it's not that easy to explain to the outside world what social economy is and what's the value. So let's start with this policy and legal frameworks. In fact, there is in fact already a study going on between the Commission and the OECD about studying these different frameworks in the different countries. And because it's OECD, they also look at their members outside of the EU. And the idea is that this ends up in a study which explains which look like the right frameworks to help support the social economy. And so this study will be very important. In fact, there's a specific study also on taxation frameworks for the social economy. And the idea is also that we come up with a proposal for a council recommendation next year on how to develop these framework conditions for the social economy. One thing which is also very important is that there's a lot of these framework conditions, like for example, on aid, where we will not necessarily change rules, but where we can have a big role in better explaining the rules, so that the policy offices in the governments and the social economy organizations themselves learn better what is possible in these different fields. So that's why we refer here to these webinars and workshops. For example, here, this is specifically on state aid. So there, it's a lot about better communication for both sides, but there is also this, but this is very technical, this GBR, so about the employment of disadvantaged workers. And at the end of, by the end of 23, there should be a revision because this law expires. And in this revision, we will also see, of course, it's a cooperation of different services, and the proposal of the Commission will be assessed by the Council, but we will push for also helping there the social economy. Now, this is very interesting. The title is luckily hidden because it's not a proper title. It says socially responsible public procurement, and it's of course about mainly public procurement. But there is also the whole issue that Karsten has also said at the start, the whole issue of cooperation between social economy and mainstream businesses. And in fact, it's a small thing, but there is something very specific in the social economy action plan. It refers to a project under the so-called single market program. And this is unfortunately a bit of jargon, because this is simply a financial program that one of the services of the Commission has, and where they have entered a study on how to improve these synergies, and then also a set of workshops to further improve this. So this is very important to you. And if you want, I can afterwards look up where exactly this is in the action plan, and I can give you the detail of that. Here, I think I will go much faster, or I will not meet my timing.
No, that's fine. I mean, yeah, we have time. Okay, you can elaborate if you want.
Okay. Because I have only 5 minutes left. There's also, for example, the international level, where it's about that we learn our colleagues working in international cooperation to also pay attention to social economy in all the actions that they do, or where appropriate, of course. Now, I showed you these 3 pillars, and the second pillar starts with business and capacity building. And there you have a very important initiative, and that's the so-called social economy gateway. So this is something that really was very outspoken in the stakeholder consultation, the citizen consultation, in fact, but we also have quite a number of stakeholders that were very vocal, that are still very vocal. And one idea that always came back is, okay, you have all these EU programs to support social economy that could potentially support it. But where to find all this? And so the idea with the social economy gateway is to put together all these things so that the sector can find these very easily. So it would be mainly about EU funding. That would be the start, but we would expand it also to other information like call for proposals and so on, which are relevant. And there, in this business support and capacity building, you also have other very concrete things. This Youth Entrepreneurship Policy Academy, again, is not a very good name because it's not an academic thing. It's about, often we have in the EU this mutual learning programs where member states that are interested are brought together to learn from each other on a specific topic. Now for youth entrepreneurship, we will do this, but instead of only the representatives from the governments and some experts, we will also bring in representatives from the youth entrepreneurship networks. So the idea is that they sit together at the table and that these representatives can make clear what are their preoccupations. So that's a big novelty, I think. The other 3 things are in fact things which are already going on, so I will not pay much attention to this. Then improving access to finance, it's also a big chunk where, of course, you know, we have the Invest EU program, and so there will be new financial products there and so on. But yeah, it's very technical. I will not go into all of this. This is then this green and digital pathway. And so there is this 3rd document of the package, this transition pathway, which is about the transitions and improving the resilience. And it's a start document. And now the whole process has started whereby the stakeholders and the policymakers will work together on finding the good ways to cope with these transitions. Social innovation is also a specific topic. So in fact, what we have here, and it's not the only occurrence of this, is that some things were already started, but they are before the action plan, but they are so relevant for the action plan that we also included them. For example, on social innovation, a set of member states national centers for social innovation are set up, and on top of that there will be a European competence center, and the idea is of course to use this to learn as much from each other what works and what could be replicated elsewhere. Also under Horizon there is a fund specifically for social innovation. Then we come to the third pillar. So there, because of its transversal character, social economy suffers in terms of visibility, but also in terms of data. In a way, the numbers which are presented on the second or third slides, they date back to 2015. It's in a way incredible that we were able to get away with that, because always policymakers are supposed to use the most recent information, and here in fact we have a huge gap. And so again, under this single market program, this budget for this year, there is also a big study foreseen that will study this so-called proximity and social economy ecosystem, but with specific attention to the two separate parts, the proximity on the one hand and the social economy on the other hand. So from there, we should really have some recent quantitative data. So as I said, this is not the Commission that will do an action plan. This is a whole menu of many different possible actions which should be beneficial for the social economy to further develop. And some, well, this is my timer, and some are for the Commission itself to do. Some are to be done by member states. Some are the Commission in cooperation with representatives from the member states, and also the other levels of government intervene. Now, what is important is that it's not very explicit in the text anymore, but the action plan is supposed to go until 2030. And so there would be a sort of midterm review, if you can use that word, in 25. And this is also quite interesting. This is in fact a reproduction of the last page of the communication. And you see in there that while the action plan has a very long horizon, it's of course front-loaded in the sense that, as I told you, like this competence center for social innovation, there's already work going on, same thing for this transition pathways. So these will be ready in 22. But two very big things, which in a way are the two most important actions of the social economy action plan, are already foreseen for next year. So one is this gateway, the clear entry point for social economy stakeholders. And the other is this proposal for a council recommendation on the framework conditions. So that's all. I managed to do it in time. I'm happy for that. So
thanks. Yeah, that's fantastic. Maybe just two quick follow-up questions before I will ask Marino and Francesco to join us as well. So first of all, you know, like a lot of the problems which social entrepreneurs face, for instance, the lack in some countries there's no legal definition for social entrepreneurship, and in a few countries there's also quite a lot of difficulties regarding taxation, as you mentioned, etc. But all of these things are, of course, things which the member states of the European Union have in their competences, and defining these. I just wanted to ask you, maybe to understand better, what role does the European Social Action Plan play in this? Like, is it creating binding instruments as well for the member states to harmonize on some of these issues, or do you think it's more like a sort of developing a framework within which the member states can still adjust their own policies.
Yeah, in fact, taxation is, of course, the example of national competence where we cannot say much, but there, and also the laws, of course, the law of whether you have a specific law for social economy or not, or how you make it linked to your existing laws on cooperatives, on business in general. These are things that the EU cannot impose. And so the whole idea is that we draft a proposal for a council recommendation, and that this council recommendation will recommend things like, look, this is something which is working. If a member state would want to improve the development of the social economy, member states are invited to have a look at what the other member states do, and we give a menu of things. We will never say this is the thing to do. Same thing also, another nice example, which I think I skipped, is social impact measurements. There's so many ways of doing that. And there also the action that we have foreseen is that, again, with the OECD, we would map the existing methodologies. Yeah. From there, we would also make a sort of recommendation. Look, this is something simple that works.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And one more question as a follow-up. So you mentioned the Buy Social initiative, and this is something where clearly, there's like that would have a huge potential, because essentially it would mean that municipalities, governments could, procure public services from social entrepreneurs. The only challenge right now is that, of course, public authorities, they have to have certain criteria for selecting service providers. They can, of course, take into account if someone has a social business, employs, for instance, disabled people, etc. That's possible, but in the end, they often have to make, choices based on the offer. And this is, I think, a big challenge for social entrepreneurs, especially for smaller social entrepreneurs, because they cannot compete with more traditional enterprises in this area, because they may be more expensive, or maybe they don't have the capacities to do this. Is that something also which the European Social Action Plan can support, that public procurement? You mentioned this already, but it's like that it's more tailored towards the needs of social entrepreneurs?
I have to admit, I don't know the detail, but there is this project. I will have a quick look here in the text. It says launch a new initiative under the social market, single market program in 22, supporting the creation of local and regional partnerships between social economy entities and mainstream business, enabling a buy social business to business market. Now, the problem with this, the problem with this kind of programs is, in fact, these are internal commission services documents. So we are also asked, for example, this year to put in time into the system on what we want to spend money in 23. And so at a certain moment, this becomes public. So I would imagine that if it's up to be spent this year, that it would be already public. So I can go after the text and share it with you. Okay?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. Okay. Anja, did you want to say something? No.
Maybe just comment on the guys already, he said that they work with very old data, Yeah, and we were discussing the same challenge in Slovenia on our national roundtable, that for example, in Slovenia, there is no statistically measuring what is happening with the sector of social economy on a yearly basis. So we don't have the data that we could provide very relevant data every year, what is going on which sectors they are active, how much there was let's say income, employees, and so on. So I think this is going to be, from that point of view, quite big challenge to to start collecting this data and get some bigger overview what is happening in member states in in the social economy sector. So I think this is very important that that the European Commission initiates that and invites members to start doing this, because otherwise it's a blank paper that we are working with. So yeah.
Thanks, Anja.
Slovenia is a very interesting case, because I think it's this week or next week that we have the launch of an in-depth country review by the OECD. So we have this cooperation with the OECD. Of course, it's not full social economy, it's only social entrepreneurship. But this publication will be launched this or next week on this in-depth country review. And the OECD was for several weeks in contact with stakeholders and so on. Of course, the problem is this is very resource intensive. So I think the OECD only does for us like 2 of this in-depth country review per year. And so I think by now we have 6 or so. And yeah, it's not that we would like to have with this data collection. Data collection principles should be annual and rapidly available.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for this update.
Okay, with this, I would like to give the floor to Marino. Marino, I mean, I wanted to ask you, the Italian ecosystem for social entrepreneurs is very much advanced. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, there's a legal definition for social entrepreneurs, and there's a lot of support out there. So what would you see from the point of view of a municipality like the Metropolitan City of Bologna? What is the main advantage of the European Social Economy Action Plan for the regional and local level?
Thanks, Carsten. I think we have a long experience in Bologna and in Emilia-Romagna about social enterprise. And there are historical and political reasons for this. I think Emilia-Romagna and Bologna are an example not only at Italian level, but also at international level, about the importance and the relevance of the cooperation, of the cooperative. And I think the other important experiences in Spain, in Mondragon, we are example of the fact that the social entrepreneur and the social enterprise can be competitive not only in small sector, not only in the welfare sector, not only in small cluster of enterprise, but they can become the most important pillar of the local economy. An example. Recently, we had the ranking of the most important enterprise in Bologna and in Emilia-Romagna. 5 of these enterprises are cooperative. The most important, the other 2, 3 are multi-utility in the public service. But in Emilia-Romagna and in Bologna, the big player of the economy are cooperative. The most important insurance company in Italy, Unipol, is a cooperative. So you understand that this is our point of strength, but maybe also a little bit our weakness. Why this? We are strong because this enterprise have thousands of employees, have a big budget, revenue, and so on. And this is our point of strength of the economies. But this means also that we risk to lose the social approach of this kind of enterprise and to become too much similar to the business enterprise in general. And I think for this reason, it's important to have an European framework. I think the European framework, the policy for the innovation are most important than the command and control rules of EU, because this framework can give us the possibility to put together the big cooperative enterprise and the small startup in the social sector. I think we in Italy could be really a sort of laboratory of the relationship between the mainstream company and the social sector. And the way to do this is the concept of altruistic entrepreneur, because we have experience, and later if it's possible, I will say you something about this. We have experience of the support of this big enterprise toward the small micro enterprise in the social sector. Finally, I think in the future, we will haven't the social sector of the economy. We will have the economy, a huge part of this economy will be characterized of the social approach of the enterprise.
Thanks, Marino. Yeah, this is really interesting. Just a quick follow-up question, Marino. You mentioned that the large social economy enterprises in Italy are competing, with traditional businesses, and are even, some of the most important ones. But their governance structure and is like or as a cooperative is more, based on members, etc., which join this organization. But do they? When you said that you want them to be more social, do they measure their social impact already, or are they just considered as social businesses because of their governance structure? I mean, because I'm asking many social entrepreneurs, when they start as a startup, they really think about where their specific impact is going to be, what they want to change in a society. But how is that with these large traditional social businesses which are found in Italy?
One of the threats of the social economy and the big company is, I repeat, to lose the vision, the social vision, because they compete in a global market. We have important cooperative, for example, in the industrial sector, or in the commercial sector, in the e-commerce, and so they compete with other private enterprise. And to do this, they have to assume management model, and this means to have the priority of the profit. And it's difficult to maintain this balance between the governance, as you mentioned, the key point, the difference between a social enterprise and business enterprise is the role of the capital.
Yeah.
In the private enterprise, the capital is the main things. In social entities, the main things is the role of the person, of the people that work, and the main objective of a cooperative is to maintain the job. And this is really important in this phase of our rethinking about the globalization, because we understand that a social, a network, a cluster of social enterprise, of social company, can be useful for a territory to maintain job, to maintain different relationship with the communities, to maintain better relationship with the environment, because they have a completely different governance of the enterprise. And this is the reason why, because I hope the social model could be in the future the winning model. And to do this, I think also some new models of business, of management, for example, corporate social responsibility, are really useful to change the approach, the priority, and the method of work of the management, of the top management, high level management of all the enterprise, not only the social enterprise.
Thanks, Marino. Thanks. That's very, very interesting. Maybe Francesco, I would like to ask you, like your work also has been on the circular economy and sustainable economy. And a lot of the social entrepreneurs, which are small, they focus very much on this idea of a circular economy. They try to develop new ways of producing, using less resources, etc. So there's a lot of innovation potential there. On the other hand, because as was mentioned before, there's not a clear measurement framework yet. And in many economic models, this idea of a circular economy is not yet incorporated yet, because the productivity or the output of social entrepreneurs is not just the jobs which they create or the income they create, but a lot of more social impact. Do you think then the European Social Economy Action Plan is going to change this, the way social entrepreneurs are seen and their value in society?
Okay, thank you very much for your very challenging question. I think that you're definitely right. There is more than a connection among the social enterprises and the social economy as a whole, and circular economy and sustainability. In the speech that in the presentation we have followed at the beginning, there was a point that how can I say that hit me a lot, and it was when, as you remarked in your following questions, the part where they were talking about the potential for social public procurement. Why? Because we know since some years the issue of green public procurement, and it was a very interesting, relevant opportunity to have the sustainability issue inside the topic of public procurement, but I'm not sure that it worked a lot. Why? Not because the idea wasn't good, but because of the rules for its implementation. So that anytime you have a tender, a public call, and you in some way risk to restrict competition, putting in some elements that are obviously are focused, are related to some important mission, but that go contrasting the open competition in the market, we know that we have some problem. And exactly like we have seen some problem in the green public procurement, I guess that we could have some problem with social public procurement. It was a point that I would like to remark, because I really think that the idea could be very, very important, even to, in some way, to launch, to have much more consideration for the social enterprise sector, but the implementation, the enforcement could be very, very difficult. And that's the same for a green public procurement. To go most strictly to your question, I think that, like Marino told us, that, for instance, we have here, I'm talking from Emilia too, but here in Emilia and in Italy, we have this huge relevancy of the cooperative sector for the global market, for any kind of industrial activity. I see that we have even lots of cooperatives active in the what we could call the green sector. For instance, in all that relevant sector for us, that is all sustainable tourism. We have all cooperatives here. That means social enterprises. And I think that we could have a good alliance between these two parts of the economy, the one looking at sustainability and the one looking at social issues. And now I won't say that it is a good thing, because it is because we are in a warning state, completely in a warning state from now to 2030. But we are seeing that the climate issue, the sustainability issue, the circular economy issue will be very central for all productions and for our economy, at least in the OECD countries. So that I guess that in next years, we will have sustainability as the main focus for each activity, and it will give a lot of rooms even for social economy. Why? Because social enterprises are very strictly related to the whole sustainability and circular economy issue. So that I think it could be a real opportunity.
Thanks so much, Francesco. It's really interesting. So I just want to give the floor to our participants as well. Does any one of you have a story to tell how, for instance, when we talk about what Francesco mentioned, Marino and Gia as well, about connecting to public authorities, getting procurement, being receiving or selling services to public authorities, or to large companies, etc., like a challenge, a legal challenge, which you found was difficult to overcome, and that could be addressed maybe as part of the European Action Plan, because he can take that. So,
excuse me,
please,
Carsten,
Francesco,
just one thing, because of what you were saying. I've seen in the chat here that were a kind of discussion about refitting, computer refitting, and so on and so forth. That's a typical example of a circular economy activity that could have the social enterprises as a main character, so that maybe even some of these that I put this in the chat could tell us, for instance, about and reply to your question.
Yes.
Sorry for the.
Yes, that's really helpful, Francesco. Yeah, Francesco, thank you so much. Yeah, maybe Lenka or Harald, do you want to tell us a little bit how whether you have already worked with public authorities? Lenka, do you want to start maybe? Or Harald as well. Yeah, Harald, go ahead.
Also mein Englisch ist eine Katastrophe. Ich könnte höchstens auf Deutsch was erzählen.
No, he says that his English, he doesn't want to speak in English. Harald, das wird schwierig dann. Okay, so das kriegen wir nicht hin, das zu übersetzen in live. Lenka, do you want to say something about this? How you working together with public authorities?
Hi, everyone. I'm actually more here to learn about how it could work. I'm not directly involved in this project. Okay. So thanks very much for all the information shared. Okay,
thanks, no problem. Anyone else who wants to maybe give like an example of how they work with public authorities, good and bad examples? Please just unmute yourself.
Okay, maybe me from Poland.
Yeah.
If you hear me.
Yeah, thanks.
I represent Kielce Technology Park, so we are the budgetary unit, we are the public authority, and it's not easy because each activities that we want to implement, of course, that are imposed by law, that we have to use public tenders. So it's not easy to choose, for example, social entrepreneurs and give such criteria to cooperate with social entrepreneurs. Each company, even consulting company and commercial company, of course, can take part. But a good example from Kielce, our municipality is working with NGOs, prepared such kinds of council with social entrepreneurs. and implemented long-term strategy how to cooperate with socialpreneurs. And they also assigned some kind of budget. And thanks to that budget, that social entrepreneurs do not have, it's some kind of competition, but it's not public procurement. So it was some kind of gate that allows us to cooperate thanks to the municipality program. Okay, thanks. Yeah, this is really helpful to have these best practices to hear about. Anyone else who wants to share their story about, or do you have any specific question on the European Social Economy Action Plan as well? Maybe one of the questions I would have is, you had this slide on really quickly, but you know, a big push of the European Union right now is the Invest EU program. And as part of the Invest EU program, there's a whole range dedicated to you know, the sustainable economy, investments into clean and green infrastructure, etc. But I just wonder, you know, like the Invest EU program in general is very much targeted on public authority spending and large corporations, which can then apply for this. But how would a small social entrepreneur, you know, how could they benefit from the whole funds which are available under the Invest EU fund, for instance? That would be really interesting, because that's, I think, a question which is also asked quite a lot.
I think there will be this continuation of this microfinance also. And in the microfinance, what we do is the money doesn't go from the EU directly to the entrepreneurs, but the money goes to the European Investment Bank or the European Investment Fund, which then makes this available to banks under the certain conditions that we give. Like, for example, if we say microfinance for underrepresented entrepreneurs from underrepresented groups, or for social enterprises, then these banks would give that under certain conditions, these loans to these two specific groups. And this is money that comes from the EIF, but which in fact the original budget is from the EU. Okay. That makes a difference with the other part of the InvestEU. And I suppose in the InvestEU you have 4 windows, and one is the social and skills window. So I suppose that this is probably different from the other windows. Okay, I see. Okay, yeah, thanks so much.
Carsten,
yeah,
can I forward the question?
Yeah,
I'm
please,
Chiara.
please.
I'm Chiara Bongiovanni from Italy. I would like to ask concerning the, let's say, now the arrival of the social economy plan in our national systems, if the European Commission has identified a kind of preferred interlocutor, at which level? Is it national, regional? Is it the any ministry or I don't know, agencies?
In fact, there is it's very good that you asked that, because it's a bit hidden in the very last part of the action plan, that there is a call for the governments at different level to come up with social economy contact points, because the whole problem of social economy is it's transversal character. So I always say as a sort of joke, it's everywhere and nowhere. And so for us also, it's important to know who is the right person to contact on social economy. And of course, this plays also a role when we will have these webinars and workshops. Of course, the Commission will not do that themselves, that they will use a consultant to organize this, but these have then to find per member states the appropriate people to participate in these webinars and workshops. And for that, it would be very helpful, of course, to know who is the most relevant person in social economy. And there again, member states are extremely different, and also the different parts of the social economy are often different, that some parts are very well organized and very visible, and in other parts you really have to look for stakeholders and for organizations of social economy organizations. I mean, that's essentially what our project is also trying to do. Is, you know, we found
that in those countries where our project operates, is the situation is quite diverse. In some countries, there's the social entrepreneurs themselves, they have organized themselves, have created non-profit organizations. In others, it's less visible, it's more informal. And so what we try to do with our Net for Social Impact Association is then also give some visibility and forums of exchange for social entrepreneurs from Central European countries, essentially, because we also find that it's in this, especially for social entrepreneurs from smaller member states, it's important to have cross-border connections very early on when they start up, to see, you know, which other people in other European countries they can collaborate with, etc. Yeah. Just looking at the chat, if there's anything. Yeah, thanks, Chiara, by the way, for this great question. Is there any other question from the audience? If not, then I would like to wrap this up here. I think, you know, what I can see is that the European Social Economy Action Plan is actually targeting a lot of topics which certainly is also part of our project. For instance, we also discussed creating a social impact measurement framework and looking at different frameworks which are already out there. We are creating a roadmap for social economy development and have analyzed the policy frameworks in our partner countries. So it's great to see this, the same initiatives which we are doing in Central Europe being also taking place on the European level. And what I can say is, what we would very much hope that we can also contribute our learnings and findings to the next steps then on the European level. And so Guy, I'm really glad to see how these things sort of connect with each other, because, you know, it's I think one of the challenges in the past for social entrepreneurs is that there was not enough visibility, as mentioned in the action plan a lot of times. And so that's why the policy development was a little bit incoherent between member states. And now it seems to get much more targeted and more focused, I would say, than in the past. So thanks so much for your work there. I hope I can share the slides for the audience afterwards. And thanks also, so thanks Guy, and thanks Marino, Francesco, for the very useful interventions. Thanks Anja for doing the kickoff. And with that, I would like to give you the final words for our Social Siesta today.
Yes, thank you, Carsten. I think that we started one very important debate today, and I'm so happy that after 3 years of this project dealing with how to set up a framework, that we actually, from the European side, we meet each other. You know, we were just tackling all these issues, and now I see that from bottom up, and I see now that also from the European Commission's part, they see all these challenges that we were discussing today on the field. And I think it's important to see also the action plan as important communication to all the member states that social economy will gain important space in economy in the future years, if we want to tackle all the social issues that we have with aging and environment and all other stuff that will also now brought up by the COVID situation. So I think it's the right time to start working on these issues from European and also national level. So thank you today to all the speakers and the questions. I think it's a beginning of hard work.
Thanks, Anja.
Today.
So everyone have a nice week and have a nice afternoon. And thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.